it's April from April's Home, and today I thought I would do some baking. So I thought I would share with you one of my favorite things to bake. This is a recipe my mom used to make for us when we were kids. It is a whole wheat carrot bread. I thought this would be nice to have made for afternoon snacks with coffee or tea, as well as perhaps something nice to go with breakfast or even after dinner. So these are the ingredients. They're pretty basic. You'll need sugar, whole wheat flour, baking soda, eggs, carrots that we will grate, cinnamon, salt, and oil, vegetable oil. This recipe was originally halved. I always make it double so that I can make 2 loaves. You will also need a big mixing bowl as well as 2 loaf pans that are greased. I just use pan spray, and also you'll need a grater to grate the carrots and a peeler. I like to peel and grate them. So I'm going to go ahead and get set up a little bit, and then I'll come back with the next step. Okay, so I've gathered a few more supplies, and I've got my grater here, and I've got a bowl that I'm going to grate the carrots into. But first I like to clean them and then peel them just to get off some of the, different rough edges and things like that, and just to make sure that they're nice and clean. And this recipe calls for 4 cups of grated carrots. So you can also cut this recipe in half if you just want 1 loaf. I figure if I'm already out here baking, I might as well bake 2 loaves. If you don't eat them all at once, you don't have a big family, perhaps you don't eat that much bread, you can freeze one. This recipe, quick breads like this do freeze nicely. Just put it in a nice Ziploc bag and you can freeze the second loaf. So you'll need 4 cups of grated carrots, which is a lot of grating. I only bought 4 pounds of carrots. I hope that does the trick. I think it should. But now I'm going to go ahead and get started with my cleaning and peeling and grating the carrots, and I'll come back and show you when that's all done and tell you how many pounds of carrots I ended up using. Okay, so I have grated 4 cups of carrots here, and I would highly recommend using a food processor if you have it. The hand grater takes a really long time and is really hard on your hands. This ended up only taking 1 2-pound bag to make the 4 cups, so I will definitely have those for another meal. But yeah, so if you're making this recipe, you'll only need a 2-pound bag of carrots, as long as most of them are, in good condition, so you don't lose a lot to split carrots and whatnot. So this is 2 pounds of carrots here, all grated up, 4 cups of carrots, and now I'm going to go ahead and start assembling the bread mixture. So again, you'll need a bowl and some flour and sugar and baking soda, oil, salt, cinnamon, and then of course our carrots there. So let's see, first I'll go ahead and get out some measuring cups. Okay, so I like to mix everything in one bowl, and I always start with my dry ingredients. So I have put 3 cups of whole wheat flour in the bowl, and next I'm going to add the salt. For baking, I typically like to just use the classic Morton salt. It's easier to pour, and you don't get little big crystals like if I use the sea salt. Okay, so I have a teaspoon of salt here, 2 teaspoons of baking soda. There's the second one. And then 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. And here's the second teaspoon of cinnamon. It's a little difficult doing this with my left hand, but so what I normally do then is, instead of dirtying up anything else, I just use the teaspoon here when I'm done using all of the measuring spoons to kind of incorporate all these ingredients together. So I just kind of mix that up so that there's no big clumps of anything in one place. So I'll do that a little bit more too in a second here, but just so you can see, just kind of like to get it like that. So then next I go ahead and add the sugar. Now normally the sugar is mixed in with the wet ingredients to kind of incorporate it, but with quick breads I find that you're mixing it so little it doesn't actually matter. At least it doesn't for me. So again, 2 cups of sugar now. Again, we're doubling this recipe. If this was just 1, we would only use 1 cup. It's like 1 cup per loaf. And then the second cup of sugar. Okay, so now I'm going to add in the rest of the wet ingredients. I've got my 4 eggs cracked here. Just go ahead and put those in. And I have a cup of oil. Again, this is just pure vegetable oil. Just put that in. And before I add in the carrots, I'm going to go ahead and mix this up with my electric mixer. So here I have my mixer ready to go, but I'll have to set down my camera to do this so I don't splatter ingredients. But I'm just going to mix this until everything looks combined. The eggs, I'll kind of start over here with the eggs and beat them up kind of separately off to the side in the bowl here, and then incorporate them in with the rest of the ingredients. The trick with quick breads is that you do not want to overmix it. That will make it not rise up as nicely and have a nice consistency. So you want to mix this as a little as possible and just enough to combine the ingredients. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And now I'm going to go ahead and incorporate 4 cups of grated carrots. So here is the batter all mixed up. The carrots really help moisten this dough. I almost think you could just put the carrots in before you even mix it the first time and just add it in along with all the other wet ingredients. It really does help everything to come together. And now I'm going to go ahead and transfer that to 2 standard size loaf pans, and I'll come back and show you what that looks like before I get them in the oven. Okay, so here are the 2 loaf pans, nice and full. You can see you definitely don't want them to be any fuller than this. I almost was tempted to get out a 3rd pan and make them into 3 slightly smaller loaves, but I decided to go ahead and just do the 2. So I will go ahead now and put these in an oven that has been preheated to 325. So 325, and I'll probably bake these for around an hour, but I'll definitely start checking it at the half-hour mark to see how it does. I have a new oven, so I'm not 100% convinced how it will bake yet. In my old oven, in ovens in the past, it takes between 45 minutes to an hour. But of course, I will come back and update you on that baking time. Again, 325, and I'll check those in about half an hour to see how they're doing. Okay, so it's been about half an hour and I'm taking a look at these. It's hard to pick up on the camera, but the tops I can tell are a little glistening, which means they're still wet. The centers haven't risen up yet, and they should rise up as they cook a little bit more. It's cooking nicely, but definitely needs more time. So I'm going to go ahead and set the timer for another 15 minutes and check them in 15 more minutes. So they are finally out of the oven and baked. I have tested them by putting a knife down the center very carefully. Sometimes these do take quite a while to cook. Sometimes you'll put your knife in and notice right away that it's still really wet. You can kind of tell also by texture. You can kind of hit it and see that it's nice and firm and baked all the way through. These 2 loaves took a slightly more than an hour to cook at 325. I think about an hour and maybe 5 minutes right through there. Every oven is different though, so of course be checking frequently until you know how long it takes in a particular oven. Past the, half hour, 45-minute mark, you really want to keep your eye on these so that they don't burn. So I'm going to go ahead now and put these both on cooling racks and let them cool for a while. And I'll come back and slice a loaf so that you can see what it looks like when it's all sliced up and ready to serve. Here are both the loaves on the cooling racks. I like to take them out while they're still really warm. I just kind of took my knife to make sure that all the edges were free. They were already pulled away from the edges, so they came out very easily, and I just kind of turned them out onto these racks, and now I'm going to let them cool. I will probably let these cool for at least an hour so that I can really be able to cut them nicely. I do like to eat them while they're a teeny tiny bit warm. It is okay to eat these a little bit warm. Sometimes that tastes extra good and the butter melts really nicely. So I will come back in about an hour and see if these are ready to slice. So my carrot bread is all cooled down and I've sliced a couple of pieces here. It looks wonderful. You can see all the little carrot in there. It just gives it a nice orange hue. It's a very beautiful bread. I'm excited to try this out. I'm going to put a little bit of butter on. Here it is, all buttered up. It is just delicious. This is a flavor that I grew up having. My mom made this for us all the time. It is her recipe. And I just love it. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a try here. And it turned out delicious. I will definitely enjoy this tonight as a snack after dinner, and I will probably have some with tea tomorrow as well. Definitely a wonderful recipe and a great way to sneak in a ton of veggies too for children. There were 4 cups of carrots in these 2 loaves of bread here, and I think that's wonderful. I hope you enjoyed taking a look at my carrot bread recipe. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe for more videos from April's Home. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you later. Goodbye.